more custom things. One question I got is how do you make walls that are not just like straight up and down? So you can model a wall as a custom component, then you can kind of like change the form of it. So for example, I think this was specifically related to the teacup. So if I go into my plan, my level 1 plan, I could make a teacup by just doing like a circular cylinder. So I could go to my wall here, wall architectural, and I could use this circle tool. I can find my midpoint and just bring that straight out. And then I'm going to delete these walls, move this over, and then I can change my floor to also be a circle. So I edit the boundary here. I can use this green pick lines button to pick the lines on the outside. Hold tab and click so I can delete all the ones on the outside, hit this green check mark. So if I look in here, this is already kind of starting to look like a coffee cup. If you wanted to add, say, like a handle on here, that could be a generic model. So generic models or generic families, model in place families, don't follow all the same rules maybe as a normal family in Revit, like the walls or the stairs or the curtain systems. They're kind of their own thing. One thing that's really important for them is that they have a frame of reference. So it's got to kind of know like what you're building it on. So if I go to level 1, I'm going to draw a plane that handle is going to live on. So I'm going to come over here and I'm looking for a reference plane, and I'm going to draw a reference plane right through the center here, and I'm going to call it by clicking on their handle. Okay, so I'm now going to go ahead and work on making that handle. So I'm going to come over to here, and I'm going to need this view right here, this front view. So I'm going to double click on there so I can bring it up. Okay, so now I'm going to go to click down on component and click model in place. And here I'm going to call this a generic model. You could, if you knew more specifically like it was stairs or it was a column or one of these other things, you could put it in that category. But this is just like a kind of a decorative random thing on the side. So I'm going to go down to generic models and hit OK and hit OK. Okay, so here I can make an extrusion for it, for example. So if I click on extrusion, it's going to ask me to specify a work plane, and I'm going to pick that reference plane handle and type OK. And now I can use my drawing tools here to draw what that handle might look like. So I could put in, for example, maybe it's something like that. Sometimes they have like a little thing at the end, so maybe I'll put that little thing in the end. And then I'm going to offset this. So I'm going to get my offset tool, and that looks, maybe that's like a better thickness for it. I'm going to trim these to each other, and then I need to complete my shape. It's important that any extrusion shape you make is closed form so that it knows like what's inside and what's outside. So once I'm happy with that, I'm going to hit my green check, and now I'm going to look at my level 1 plan to see how big it is. I'm going to change my extrusion end to be -1 foot and hit apply, and that's just going to make it even around both sides. So now I'm going to click finish model, and if I go into my 3D, there is my coffee cup with my handle. So let's say that I wanted this coffee cup to have rounded sides altogether. I can do something kind of similar. So what I'm going to do is come back into my south view here. And this time when I go to architecture, component, model in place, I'm going to tell it that it's a wall. So I'm going to come over here to walls and click OK. I'm going to call this curved wall and click OK. So For this one, I'm going to do a revolve. A revolve means that it takes one shape and it twists it all the way around to center axis to make something that's kind of mirrored around all sides. So if I'm going to click on revolve, and it's going to ask me to pick a plane. So I'm going to go ahead and actually use the same plane I just had, that reference plane for handle, and click OK. It wants to know my axis line if I click here, so I'm going to draw that in right in the center. And then I'm going to click my boundary line, and this is where I draw in the shape of what that curve looks like. So if I'm going to make like a curved cup, and I don't know exactly what the coffee cup you want to make looks like, but maybe it's just like a kind of a subtle curve here. And then I'm going to offset this 1 foot, let's say. Or I think your exterior, that's pretty good for an exterior wall, 1 foot. So I'm going to offset it. And then remember, I always need to close these shapes that I'm making. So I'm going to close that, and then close this. And I need to use this tool to trim the ends of that. I'll do the same thing up here just to make sure it's all complete. Okay, so now I'm going to hit my check mark. And if I go into 3D now, it's overlapping my other one, so I can't see it. I'm going to hit Finish Model, and I'm going to move this over so you can see it a little bit better. So now I have like this cup that has walls that are curved, and I should still be able to put doors and windows and things in it. It might just get a little kooky. So for example, I put a door in here, and then let's look in 3D what that did. Because like the door needs a flat place to land, it kind of like made the door kind of hanging out on its own, and this doesn't really work, right? So in this case, you would probably need to build a little vestibule off of here for the door to happen. So if I were to come over here, I could get my wall, and I'm just going to build out like a regular little vestibule to put that in. So if I click this over, get my midpoint. Sometimes I like to have lines to help me. So if I go to annotate and then get detail line, I can create a line that only shows up in 2D to help me find where that middle point is. So now I could bring this over, and then I could get my door. And so if I were to do that, and then I can trim these walls as well. And these can be shorter. But essentially, I would then trim those walls out, and I could have kind of something similar happening with a door, even though my walls are curved. Okay, so that's 2 ways to make kind of an unusual building, what we might call a duck building.